Bitcoin is at a make or break level. I know, you've heard this all before, but seriously, if Bitcoin can't hold where it's currently at, we will likely go much lower. In today's video, I will be talking about exactly this, looking at the most important level for Bitcoin that we need to hold as support, and looking at previous cycles, what exactly happened. We'll also be touching on the recent stock market move and discussing Warren Buffett's cash position. As always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. We've been covering this extensively. Bitcoin is now currently getting rejected at its previous breakdown point. Now you might be asking, why is this level so important? The reason it's so important is because we saw a lot of hesitation before Bitcoin went ahead and put in that low right around $74,000. Now that we got a nice pump here, shaking all these shorters out, if we get rejected here, it's likely that we go lower. And this is the exact theme that we've been talking about on the channel for the past few weeks. Now, if you're trading this, what are the immediate areas of support? First of all, we have the previous consolidation zone, which is right around $93,700. So if you're already in a Bitcoin short here, I would be placing my take profits around this level. Not financial advice, of course, but if I was in a trade, this is exactly what I would be doing. Then the next level, if this level is to break, assuming we can't hold it as support, would be around $91,800. Why? This is the previous zone that we held as support as Bitcoin went ahead and put in an all-time high. As we can see, multiple wicks tapping into this zone. So as we've been discussing extensively, my base case was that we were likely going to get rejected here, and this is exactly what we're starting to see. We are on a Sunday, which is relatively illiquid, and it's pretty interesting to see that the negative price action comes during the weekend. You always need to be careful with that. But if we look on the weekly chart, what does this candle look like? We wicked back into this all-important zone, but as I'm recording this video, it doesn't look likely that we are to close in this region. So make sure you're keeping your eyes on the previous breakdown point. This is the only level that I'd honestly be looking to trade Bitcoin. And so what we can expect here is hopefully for the bullish case scenario would be to break down here and hold this key region as support before we go ahead and move on higher. Now later in the video, I'll also be discussing how Michael Saylor might be buying over $20 billion worth of Bitcoin. So stay tuned for that. But speaking of which, as I'm recording this video, Michael Saylor just put out this tweet 1 minute ago. Too much blue, not enough orange. If you've been watching my previous videos, you know exactly what this means. Tomorrow, he will likely be revealing his most recent Bitcoin purchase. I'll make sure to keep you updated. But back to the Bitcoin chart. What are we looking at here? This is 2019. Bitcoin chopped around in the same fashion that it currently did before making that low. And then we made the low, pumped all the way back up. This is, of course, the daily chart. And then we got rejected and made a brand new low for Bitcoin. Now, no one can tell you with certainty what will happen, but if we go back on today's chart, we can see a very similar scenario looking like it's going to play out. Bitcoin chopping around, then it goes ahead and sets a new low right around the 74.5K area, pumps all the way back up into this region, and now we're starting to see those initial signs of rejection. In terms of the spot portfolio, this is exactly why we started buying some Bitcoin when we got this dump, and I have not been touching altcoins. I will remind you once again, as we have been doing for months on the channel, if Bitcoin pumps, Bitcoin dominance will go up. But if Bitcoin continues to get rejected at this key breakdown area, Bitcoin dominance will continue to go up. So from an investor's perspective, Bitcoin is the way to go until we get looser monetary policy and until we can get a nice and big aggressive wick to the upside, marking a turnaround in Bitcoin dominance. I still think we will surpass 66%, and I also think that if 66% can hold as support, it is likely that we can make it all the way up to potentially 70%, which was a previous area of rejection for Bitcoin dominance back in 2019 and 2020. So just briefly back to the 2019 chart, we can see that yes, we wicked to the upside to get rejected and make a new low, but afterwards, we also were able to pump back above this key breakdown area, once again get rejected, and then go ahead and print an even lower low. Now, what should you be getting out of this? This just basically means that when Bitcoin goes back to the previous level that it broke down from, we should be expecting some kind of resistance. It will not be easy for Bitcoin to just pump from here. And if we go back to today's chart, we can see indeed that we're having 2 red candles in a row. And that reminds me, if you want to trade Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies, you have the first link in my description down below bringing you directly to Weeks. With my link and my link alone, you can earn a 20% deposit bonus. That means that if you deposit $10,000 to trade trade with, you get $2,000 back for free for trading. And all you need is an email and a password to sign up. It is the first link in my description down below. Now let's briefly talk about stocks because they will likely be impacting how the crypto price action develops. As we can see here, the S&P 500 posts longest winning streak in 20 years as Trump and China show some willingness to bend on trade. We touched on this topic several times in last week's videos where it seemed like Trump and China were finally getting along and willing to negotiate during this trade war. Now we had 9 winning days in a row for the S&P 500, which is the biggest winning streak since November of 2004. Does this mean it's time to continue pumping, or will we likely get rejected? Here's the thing, if we take a look at the stock market here, we are still below a very important level, which is the 200-day moving average. If stocks are to get rejected here, I would be expecting a rejection at this level. This is what you need to pay attention to. This level is right around 5,750. As we can see here, the last time that we tried to retest this level, it failed and stocks went ahead and put in a new low. The question is this the final low? If we go back to some previous price action here, we can see that the last time that stocks convincingly broke below the 200-day moving average, we did indeed go lower. So you should be keeping this on your radar. What happened is we dropped below, we came back up for a retest, then we got rejected again, set a new low, then we pumped up once again, getting rejected at that 200-day moving average mark, and then we made the final low before stocks went ahead and moved much higher. So if we get a repeat of this kind of price action and stocks just go ahead and get rejected and chop down and make a new low, it would certainly not be good for Bitcoin. So keep your eyes on this 200-day moving average because to me, this is the most important level that you should be paying attention to. Now, what are the bullish case scenarios for Bitcoin? Because you'll also remember how we've been discussing that retail still isn't here. It's very much just institutions pumping Bitcoin at this point in time because everyone wants to get their hands on Bitcoin. So speaking of that, we have to discuss Michael Saylor's company, Strategy. They just released their Q1 2025 earnings call. It's a 2-hour video, so I won't bore you with all of the contents of it. But the most interesting thing in this earnings call as it relates to crypto is how they plan on using their capital to buy some more Bitcoin. And we can see here that they still have $21.1 billion in capital ready to buy Bitcoin. The last time they spent around $21 billion, what happened to the price action of Bitcoin? This all started around November when Bitcoin was sitting right around $70,000. And it doesn't take a genius to tell you that we pumped massively all the way up to 109K for Bitcoin. So could we be seeing a repeat of this? In my opinion for Bitcoin, this is currently the best bull thesis out there. Now, we have a pretty big week ahead because we'll be getting the interest rate decision and FOMC. And as we can see here, it doesn't look like we'll be cutting rates with the odds at 97.2% for rates to stay the same. And a quick summary that you should understand before this week starts, the Fed's current concern is having above target inflation that may worsen due to the tariffs. The US economy did shrink last quarter and consumer spending slowed down. Traders are now expecting an interest rate cut in June. And in the meantime, the concerning signs are still there. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway just announced they now hold a record $348 billion in cash. Since 2022, Buffett's cash balance is up $239 billion and he has net sold stocks for 10 straight quarters. What does Warren Buffett see here? And if you didn't hear the news, Warren Buffett will officially be retiring as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the end of this year. He is the most legendary investor of all time. Since 1964, his company has returned 5.5 million%. A $10,000 investment in 1964 would be worth $550 million today. This compares to around a 39,000% return in the S&P 500. Buffett has outperformed the S&P 500 by over 140 times. Will we ever see a CEO with such a historic run again? Some would argue that over the next decades, that CEO could be Michael Saylor, but I'm not that convinced. Yes, I believe in Bitcoin, but it's borderline impossible to beat these numbers. So, the most legendary investor of all time is holding a huge cash position, but he has continued to add to this position. Does this mean we're just going to dump immediately? It's likely not the case. But he is definitely preparing himself because there are some worrying signs in the economy. If we go back to the Bitcoin chart as I close out this video, we can see that we're still getting rejected from that level, although we did get a little bit of a pump after the news that Saylor will likely be announcing his most recent Bitcoin purchase. So keep your eyes on that. If we can hold within this level as support, that would be exceptional, because then we could go ahead and hopefully move to all-time highs. This would be a very, very good indicator. A last reminder, this previous breakdown region is the most important level that you should be paying attention to, because it will likely determine where the market is headed next. And that sums up today's video. With FOMC this week, it will likely be a very volatile week, so make sure that you're managing your positions accordingly. We also have Bitcoin currently getting slightly rejected from the previous breakdown point. If we can hold here, it would be very positive for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto industry. Overall though, I still think that Bitcoin dominance will likely to increase until we get better monetary policy. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll keep you updated in tomorrow's video.